All right, folks, welcome to Nino's Corner.tv. I'm with one of your favorites, Laura Eisenhower and Alex Collier. And I got to tell you, Alex, it's been a long time since we've had you on. And I've been begging Laura. I was like, man, we got to get him on because there are so much stuff out. There's so much stuff happening right now that I don't even know where to begin. First of all, we're going into an election year. And I mean, this is an election year. And there are signs in the heavens, that's the best way I can put it, solar eclipses that all this one, especially in April 8th, specifically, tons of hype around this. Could there be a cyber attack? NASA's shooting rockets into it. A comet's going to hit the sun. I mean, there's just so much going on that I don't even know where to begin with this. And I think you'd be the perfect person to talk about this with my audience. And Laura, thank you for joining me. And Alex, thank you for joining me.
Absolutely. Oh, and the National Guard too being called.
That's right.
Yeah. And Homeland Security warning everybody about a biological attack. The FBI going to Fortune 100 and all the big banks and saying, have your people be prepared for a laydown for 3 weeks. It's insanity. There are just so many rumors, and we all know that right now virtually everything's a psyop. We know that. Now these are events, but what's really interesting, David, is that the White Hats for so long were playing catch up, and in that position of having to play catch up and get ahead of the deep state, the global cabal, they had to get really, really creative. And that actually turned out to be a real strength, because at this point, they could literally take almost any situation and turn it into a positive. All right. So, here we have the eclipse. And I've never seen anything like it. You have let's just start with the rumors. Okay. There's rapture rumors. There is the creation of earthquakes because of the eclipse. There's the CERN being turned on during the eclipse. Then we have NASA wanting to shoot rockets at the eclipse, and there's even a stranger one, and that is that the Q posted that there would be 3 days of darkness. No one actually knew what that would mean, but one of the rumors that's out there is that as the sun begins to move, the moon is going to move in sync with it for 3 days. Now, we know the moon's an artificial satellite, so it can be moved. All right. But literally what that would do is that would create 3 days of darkness. Now, is any of that true? We don't know. I'm hoping that, there's 2 Solar Warden star carriers, and there's a 100-mile sign between the 2 of them that says Trump won. Okay, but of course that's a stretch. So, there's just all this stuff around this, and of course the National Guard. Now we have to remember that they were federalized. So who's actually pulling the strings behind this? It wouldn't necessarily be the governors; it would be CIC. Okay. So potentially that's still in the game, and then we have. Of course, the areas we have school closings, we have the FAA saying that they're going to mitigate flights or stop flights from April 7th to the 10th of April. So that whole 3-day window, this is unprecedented stuff.
For an eclipse, I've never seen this before in my life.
I don't think it's ever happened before, unless they're expecting, planning, or they're going to do something like a 9/11, or they expect something to happen. At this point, we know the White Hats are going to use any opportunity to highlight and to show the deep state, to expose the deep state. So it's really hard to understand why they would let somebody get hurt in this scenario outside of exposing them. So, I mean, it's a shit show. Can I say that?
Yeah, of course. I say it all the time.
It's just turned into a real shit show. And all I know is this: a friend of mine who's inside Space Force said that this is not a nothing burger.
Wow.
Okay, so that means, and if he knows, then that means that this is planned. So whatever's coming, they know about, and it's planned. So, it could be just about anything. And at the same time, we have that going on. We have countries revaluating their currencies. We know that the new USN, the new gold-backed currency, is in banks. We got a confirmation of that yesterday from someone at Chase Bank that the new money's already in the vault.
So could this be a marker for the Great Reset, you think? You think maybe they're using this as a go marker, saying, okay, once this happens, it's a good excuse to reset the system and we'll blame it on the eclipse type thing?
Or on a terrorist attack, or let's say they do a terrorist attack, they declare martial law. They go right into Nasara,
Jeez.
or whatever it is, because everybody's shut down. And by the time everybody comes out of it and all the dust settles and the smoke clears, we're in a brand new system. In this way, there's no riots, there's no anything, because everybody's being distracted by the show. By the show. I mean, it's anything, but like I said, the White Hats have had to use a lot of creativity because they were playing catch up for decades.
So are you saying the White Hats let the Black Hats? The way I'm understanding this is maybe, and how I've been understanding it is basically let them commit to their moves, and then let them fumble the ball and expose them, and then we come in and kind of intercept it, or we take it the direction we want it to go, but we let them commit their crimes, so to speak.
You let them at least try to pull it off. They commit all their resources to doing something, and then at the very last minute, once you know that they're fully committed to doing whatever they're going to do. For example, January 6th, we know what was happening there, but for some reason they haven't pulled the rug out yet on that. But this is the very same scenario. And every time the deep state tries to do something, or even the global cabal, every time they try to do something, they expose themselves more and more and more. Well, it could very well be that this may be one of the last cards that they have left, at least in country, to pull.
Right.
Because if the new money's in the bank or in banks, if the National Guard is federalized and they're spread out all over the country, if the FAA is going to suspend flights, then they're ready to flip a switch.
Right.
Absolutely ready to flip the switch.
I'm thinking this could be like a Y2K thing, and like a lot of hype behind it, and then nothing happens, and then that way our defenses are down, our guard is lowered, and then boom, they hit us a couple weeks later or a couple months later. I don't know. I mean, I'm just thinking out of the box. I'm thinking out loud here. I'm like, because it's very hard for me to believe that something's going to happen during eclipse, but unless obviously they use that as the excuse. And I guess I'm very cautious of this, to jump in, both feet in and just saying, oh, this is going to happen, that's going to happen, and then nothing happens and we all look like morons. You know what I mean? I'm scared. It's kind of like,
yeah, we've all been there.
Isn't that the tactic too, is to just pull our energy into something? I mean, if they're like, if they want loosh, if they've been harvesting and siphoning for thousands of years and that's been their tactic, and the eclipse is Aries, Chiron, Sun, Moon, retrograde Mercury, and it's a real powerful time to direct our energies towards solutions, towards what we want to manifest and create, that this is just an attempt to pull us in and be in that survival chakra and be all panicked. And like you said, if nothing really happens, it's like all that energy could be used later on to, I don't know. My question is, was the Francis Scott Key Bridge and what happened there sort of a stepping stone to maybe what's taking place with this eclipse, or what they're preparing for with food shortages and just...
Okay. Let's take the Francis Scott Key Bridge. We're all familiar with the Army Corps of Engineers. If you put the Army Corps of Engineers on the job, how soon do you think they could build that bridge? Do you think it would be 4 or 5 years? No. They could rebuild that bridge in no time, because this is what they do all over the world. Okay?
That makes sense.
So, maybe there was something wrong with that bridge anyway. Maybe the underpilings underneath them were eroding and it was going to come down eventually. So what they did was they used it as an opportunity, or let the deep state highlight it as an opportunity to expose itself one more time. So there's all these background things going on that we don't know. There's all these pieces that somehow look separate, but yet they all come together as pieces of a puzzle. And as far as the loosh, my attitude is this, is that, you never know how far someone can fall until you get them very high, and then they begin the process of falling. Could this be a test of the white hats to see how we respond? Do we immediately go into fright, or have we actually woken up to a percentage of consciousness where we don't immediately go from here to here? In other words, we stay at this level as the observers. And that's where they would need us to be, especially if they're going to change the system. They need us to be high as observers, because we have to take over and literally rebuild humanity, not just in the States, but the whole world. So this could be a test to see what that actual measurement, is it that 80%? Is it that 82%? Are we actually there? Especially the United States, because the whole thing starts here for the most part. This is where the darkest of the dark are. And they've been doing their thing. They really have. And I whatever happens here, I see this as a positive. I really do. Because turning on CERN, there's all the speculation that they're trying to create a portal to bring in someone else. Okay, so you're going to tell me that they're going to allow us to be invaded by someone when you have the entire solar system loaded with alliance ships, and they're just going to stand down? It's never going to happen. It's never going to happen. Okay, but you allow them to commit themselves to being this disgusting. And NASA firing rockets. There's another factor to this that a lot of people just don't know, or they definitely don't want to talk about. Now we're going to have the sun moving, the moon moving in front of the sun. Now, Nino, you're young enough to remember when the sun was yellow.
Yes, I say it all the time.
Right. It is.
I think some people think I'm crazy to say that. I always tell people. I remember when it was a bulb, like a yellow creamy color. Like I don't remember it being like it is now. I remember as a kid, no chemtrails, and it was a yellow sun. I remember that.
Yeah, it was spectacular. Well, what's happening is that our solar system and our sun are going through a transfiguration, a transmutation. Our sun is converting itself from hydrogen to helium. So it's changing its composition. And helium is 100 to 1,000 times more brighter than hydrogen is. So it's going to produce more light. So this is why it was necessary to flush out the rogue groups from underground, okay, because they can't stand the light. And when they were flushing out the tunnels of things non-human, they would put UV lights in these tunnels so that
Wow.
they would run into the UV lights and they would
What?
stop because they were completely blind. They couldn't see anything because they can't stand UV light. All right. And that's when we
That's
would take them out.
insanity. Are you serious?
Oh, yes.
You can't make that shit up.
Is that
No,
why Bill Gates
they-
is trying to cover the sun?
Yeah, of course. He's a dirtbag.
So with this process of the sun becoming whiter, from what I'm noticing, is that obviously we are I guess you could say sun beings. I don't know. We respond from the sun. Does that mean that we are in turn making a shift as well and ascending or
Yeah. What is light? It's frequency.
yeah.
All frequency. The higher the light, the higher the frequency. That's what's changing our DNA. That's what's changing our physicality. That's what's exposing all of the dark shit that has been in the open, but none of us could see.
So what happens to these dark beings that are in the tunnels and all that? I mean, are they trying to bring us with? Is this the final battle? Is this a more scientific explanation of the war that's being waged right now of good and evil and dark and light? Are they trying to take us with them into this lower dimensional realm during this process? Are they trying to inhibit our ascension? Are they trying to stop it?
Yeah.
I mean, what
They
is all this about right now?
They are absolutely trying to stop our ascension. They are.
Because they can't exist without us, correct?
Well, we're the ones who created this matrix for them. All they had to do was convince us that this is what reality was. So what did we do? The minute we bought into it, we began to create it. And the
Started
more we
feeding
created
them.
it, the more physical it became.
Well,
Yeah.
the only power they have
they're
is
freaking out because we're like, oh, wait a minute. This is not what we want. This sucks. So we're turning our attention and our consciousness in a completely different direction. And our consciousness is saying, what do we want? What is it that we really want? And that's where we're going, leaving them behind. And, some of these beings don't have soul. So they clearly understand this is the end for them.
so they're
Are
like
they AI? Would you say that they are AI?
Some of them may be, and some of them may not be. It's really hard to say.
But I mean,
can't say that all of them are AI. I wouldn't say all of them are AI. But some of them may be, very well be, or clones. Clones that have just been programmed to do what they're doing. A lot of the Greys, they were clones. There was only about 2,500 actual Zeta Reticulan Greys of the original bloodline of the original race even in existence. They manufactured clones to do all their shit for them, and they were all part of the hive mentality, which I guess you could say is in fact AI.
and you said before that some of these Greys are trying to like recover that soul matrix that in these times, this sort of assimilation into AI or transhumanism is turning humans potentially into that. So, and then there seems to be species that have gone down that path that are trying to recover their soul matrix again, or energies, right?
Well, my understanding about the original Greys is when they came here, they realized that their race was dying. They were not reproducing. So what they wanted to do was to see if they could reproduce using our physicality because of our different genetics, and they could create the body, but soul would not attach to their physicality, which is why they would pick women up and they would have the babies with the mother because, the mother would be emotional, compassionate, projecting love and so on and so forth for the baby. But the baby couldn't feel any of it.
Wow.
Because there's no soul, and it's a sad situation technically.
And that trajectory of transhumanism, gender confusion, how kids are being born with this Chiron Mars North Node and their just trajectory. I mean, does that turn a human into genetically modified, almost like EBE or gray? Is that how that works?
Laura, I don't know. I don't know how this all works. This is the first time we're seeing this, as a species on our planet, this kind of a thing. This was an absolute act of desperation by a very, very aggressive rogue group of extraterrestrials and humans, sadly, who were part of this. They couldn't have pulled this off without the elite doing this crap. But you have to remember that, who we are. Because of our genetics, 22, or Elena Denau now says 24, at strands, we have the genetics of 22 or 24 races in us. We have an enormous span of emotions. Enormous. Even we don't understand its full potential. If you had somebody who knew exactly how to manipulate that extreme of emotions, they could get you to create anything. Because what does emotion do? When you have intent and you give it the emotion, you literally call forth DNA. You literally can call forth the ability to create physicality. And they know this about us. We're the only ones who don't really understand this.
Weaponizing epigenetics, right?
They're bingo. That's it. That's exactly what they did. They got us to turn on ourselves. They got us to turn on ourselves.
But with
And now we're waking up to it. And now we're totally waking up to it. And we're just like, no, we're not doing this. You still have your slower ones who are trying to catch up, who are just now beginning to see stuff. But enough people have woken up that you're now seeing people on like Fox News, Jesse Waters and others talking about, hey, the public's really waking up to all the stuff that's going on. That's huge. You would never hear that 5 years ago, and now it's out in the open.
So I've noticed also, it seems to me like there's all kinds of traps that have been laid to trap our soul here, trap our consciousness here. I'm one to speak on it because I was trapped in that, with boxing and the red carpet stuff and the celebrity stuff. I was kind of, in that little circle or outside circles of that stuff for a while. And then I think the biggest blessing that happened to me is losing, getting knocked out, losing my fight, and having back surgery and be taken out of that sport, out of that lower density or that low vibration of sewage, to be taken out of it and having to reinvent myself and go a completely different direction. I look at things like the Kardashians. I look at things like the worship of money, fast cars, celebrity status, giving these celebrities everything they want, as a trap in this third dimensional realm to keep people here, keep them wanting the materialistic, keep them wanting the fame, keep them wanting that status, that money, everything. Because that keeps your vibration low and it keeps you here on this plane. Am I right in saying that? And it seems like the only way to really check out of that and ascend is to drop your ego, to completely lose your ego and move on. And that at least I'm speaking from experience because that's what happened to me. But I learned the hard way. Like, it was a really hard lesson to learn. But it was like a nuclear bomb blew up in my life. And what I thought, I even got a tattoo of the Phoenix on my arm because I was like, I want to come back a new fighter and I'm going to come back in the same sport and I'm going to knock everyone out. I'm going to be the new Dave. Didn't happen that way. My whole life blew up. A nuke went off in my life and I ended up going a completely different direction, podcasting about and joining the movement, the awakening movement. That's where I went when I was over here. So and then I look back on it, hindsight's 2020. I look back and I go, oh my gosh, I was part of that system. I was in that trap. Am I right in saying that? Are these the trap really is the third dimensional consciousness, right? Staying within that cesspool, that realm, using celebrities to be that carrot, to dangle that golden carrot in front of everybody. Oh, you want some fame? You want some money? You want the celebrity life, right? I mean, I feel like those are part of the traps. Am I right in saying that?
In my opinion, yes, you are.
If I even made any sense right now.
That kind of
You
a
did.
lifestyle, that kind of attention, that kind of frequency feeds only a small part of you, and that would be the ego. And then what happens is that the more energy you give it, the more attention you pay to that, the ego, this false construct, becomes who you think you are. And what happens is you push aside the spiritual part of yourself, which of course is yourself. So the physical becomes more dominant than the spiritual, than the
But
non.
look how many people are trapped in this now, because now Instagram,
Yeah. Well,
Facebook,
they knew it so well. They knew it
TikTok,
so well.
everyone thinks they're famous, and they've lost themselves. They care more about their profile picture, their image on social media than anything. To me, that's the trap. That's the trap. They are trapped souls.
It is. It is. When you start believing your own press, you're screwed.
Yeah.
I think the ego gets really compartmentalized instead of being a vehicle for the spiritual to express itself through. And that compartmentalization is just so detrimental. And it's a time of major evolution in an eclipse time to look at that Chiron Aries and Mars and, the reflection of the Mercury retrograde to really not mask the wounds, not stay addicted to a matrix in order to cover up a deeper trauma that we all carry as a humanity for all that's been targeted, all the ancestral patterns, all the world wars, all the breakup of family, and now gender confusion. It just seems like people are running for vices, and that addiction is that matrix that you're talking about, David. And it's just incredible how you frame it with the breakthrough that you've had. And that was, I'm sure, very incredibly healing. So Alex, my question for you is, in light of DNA being manipulated, when a person breaks the mind control, because it works in tandem, if it was enough to just have the weaponry, they wouldn't bother with fake news, indoctrination, medical tyranny. If a person breaks free of that part, do you feel the power of spirit is strong enough to be able to recover from the bioweapons and the assaults?
Okay. Let me just refer back to Dave, and I'll answer that question, Laura. Dave, so I'm going to ask you, did you go through a dark night of the soul?
Oh, thank you for asking that. Yeah, for 10 years, where I wanted to commit suicide daily. Like daily. Every time I woke up, it was a worse day than the day before. Like I was drinking, I was doing drugs. I mean, I lost all sense of self, identity. I was in the blackest of black places, man. And it didn't. What's that?
And of all the people that were with you as the fighter, as the winner, as the champ, at the end of the 10 years, how many of them were left?
None of them. And in fact, the ones that were with me, it was a very strange, precarious situation. I shot up in boxing, and I had about 40 people with me, entourage, whatever. Once I went down below and I crashed and burned, those people went away, and I got a whole new set of friends that loved the misery, and they were just around me because they were miserable. And then when I shot back up, I lost all of them, and now the ones that were on top with me in boxing are starting to trickle back into my life, and I'm just shutting them out. I don't want them around because I'm too smart now. I'm like, I know you. It's like that, you know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
But no, I definitely have learned a valuable lesson. But my life for 10 years was absolute, and I say this, and I'm open this. I'm an open book. My life was complete misery for 10 years. I'm talking, I didn't know who I was.
Well, it could have been longer than just the 10 years,
Yeah.
because those kind of crashes, they hurt. They really, really hurt. I've been.
Oh, they either make or break you. I've seen many fighters come out of the sport, go into drugs, go into alcohol, and die.
Yeah.
They don't even have to be fighters. They could just be athletes, whatever. But I have a lot of friends. Just in the last year, I've lost 4 of them. This has been a very tough time since 2020 on. And a lot of people, it'll either make or break you. And I'm watching a lot of people break.
So Laura, not everyone can recover. And that's how I wanted to address your question by asking that. I as well have seen a lot of people go through dark nights of the soul, and some of them pull out of it. And they're stronger, they're better, they're more connected to source, to all that is spiritual, religious, whatever you want it. They're more connected to the spiritual side of life than just stuck on the physical. But then there's others who just can't recover. And it's because they've lost so much of themselves, that their true self, they've lost so much of it, or they refuse to remember it, because they argue for their limitations. They will argue with you saying, I can't do that. There's no way I can do this. I can't get back, and they start arguing with you, and there's nothing you can do with somebody who's going to argue for their limitations. What you have to do is just back away and love them from a distance. And we all have people in our life now that are like that, where we love them from a distance because we can't reach them anymore, but we remember them when we could. And there's nothing you can do except to bless them every day. But the work, of course, is first on ourselves. And then when our frequency changes, we begin to draw people into our circle of the same frequency. Misery loves company. That's why you brought in a whole new group of friends, and they were all of the same frequency until you hit a place and you were like, fuck this. I don't want this anymore. And then what you did was you made that change. And as you changed your frequency, they all moved away. And now you have a completely new circle of friends.
Well, I do, but not many. I don't have many friends anymore.
David, in truth, when you go through life, maybe on both hands, those are the true friends you ever really have. It's not, it's not your Instagram following. It's not your Facebook likes. That's not real.
Right.
Telling my kids
they're the loneliest people I know.
Real, it's not. Who's going to be there when you truly need help? It's going to be us. It's going to be your brothers and your sisters, and maybe 2 or 3 of your friends that you have. That's it. So
I'm fine with it. I'm fine with not having many people in my life, less people, less problems, and I've realized that all I need is God. I'm connected more so now to Source than ever before. And I'm not saying God is some dude with a beard hanging out in the clouds with a pair of testicles. I'm not saying that. To me, God is Source and love, and I'm connected. And I just feel like whatever that is, I'm there. And no one can take me away from that. And I built it more by the trust I had in that Source, by giving up alcohol, giving up drugs, giving up the womanizing, chasing women in bar. it was everything I was doing, man. I was just a slave to my impulses. And boxing was feeding that. Boxing was feeding those impulses. By me as a rising star protege, 36-0, man, I had it all. I was just, it was almost to my disposal. And now I see the world completely different, and just how much trouble I was really in. And I feel like I've come to a graduation in my life where I've graduated from that world onto this one, but there's more to come. It's like once you climb a hill, you look around you see the valley below that you came from, and then you look around and you see another hill that's even higher. You're like, I got to get there now. that one's in the clouds. I need to get up there. I need to go that way now. So there's always something more to attain, I guess.
True. My book is a lot about the dark night of the soul and going into the underworlds and just all that, just experience after experience. And it just seems almost like never ending, but I realize it's the place of rebirth. It's the place of transformation. It's the place to, lose all the attachments to false light or whatever you think is a sense of security, and to really know that we're learning to fall back on ourselves and find that true source energy within ourselves that will guide us out of the dark and that loves us unconditionally. But
that's the gift of a dark night of the soul. It strips you of all the belief systems that aren't real, because in the end, all that's left is just you. It's just you. And then you start over,
Let me ask you this. I've talked to Daniel Brinkley many times, and he says in 2025, there's going to be a solar flash or a solar coronal mass ejection that's going to change the planet. There's all kinds of, I hear this from different people, and Daniel's one of them, but I hear that all kinds of things are going to happen in 2027. An asteroid's going to hit the Earth. and take out Earth. I mean, there's always some kind of looming disaster or impending doom coming that's going to change humanity forever. And I just feel I can only work on myself. But is there going to be an event, Alex? Is there going to be a specific event that happens that changes human consciousness? I mean, obviously 2020 happened, that changed human consciousness. 9/11 happened, that changed human consciousness. But is there going to be a really big event that occurs that kind of sets this shift? It goes click, and certain souls go to a different, certain consciousness leaves this paradigm onto the next, and we leave a lot of people behind, like a shift in humanity, a shift in souls, a shift in consciousness. Is there going to be one event that happens that separates us from them, and you either the rapture, whatever you want to call it? Is there going to be one defining event that's coming? Could it be the eclipse?
That's a very, very difficult question to answer. But I'll share with you some of the events and rumors of things that are to come. Number one, when the sun fully commits itself from hydrogen to helium, will there be a flash when that happens? Will there be? So we don't know for a fact. Even though we know that this happens in our galaxy and other galaxies, this is a first for our solar system. So it's possible that now that amount of light would change the structure of all living things on the planet. Okay? But we've never been through it. If you followed Michael Salla and one of his space contactees, Space Force contactees, JP was told by some of the Nordics that the reason they were moving the space arcs is because a portion of humanity would have to live on them for a while. And then there's other extraterrestrial groups who are saying that the Earth herself will move from third into fourth, and then from fourth into fifth. That means that whoever doesn't jive with that frequency, do they transpire? Do they go back to source? Or are they the ones on the arcs that are being taken to some other place to finish their journey? It's impossible to say at this point. Mm-hmm. The A's would never give me any of those answers because, I'm here on the journey as well as everybody else. So they would never give me my answers. I could probably find out more about you than I would ever find out about me from them. And that's just the way it's always been. It's frustrating, but it is what it is. So it's really hard to say. But I'm always conscious of all these things that I hear, and I'm constantly trying to put these pieces together to see how they fit. Now, those that worked on Project Looking Glass, they saw us going to 2030. They saw something happening in 2030. Now, I was told a year ago that as far as our sun moving into hydrogen, that we had 7 years. That would take us to 2030. Okay, that was a year ago.
Is it moving into helium or hydrogen?
It's hydrogen now, it's moving into helium.
Is it like carbon-based to crystalline? Is that sort of like...
Yes, that's exactly what it is. It's going from carbon-based to crystalline. And what's interesting about the helium energy is that, or that frequency, that comes from fourth.
We our high voices. Sorry.
Our suns are powered by energy from higher dimensions. Because that's just what it is. They burn things that are here, but the actual energy itself, the consciousness of all stars, comes from a higher frequency, higher dimension. And it goes up and up and up and up all the way to the very top. So there's so much we don't know. Now, our forefathers, the Sumerians, the Chaldeans, they knew more about astronomy and how the universe worked than we do. Most of that science, that technology, has been hidden from us because the planet got compromised. It got taken over by a group that absolutely just used us as a resource. There was no consideration for our highest good. So, we're now catching up, and not everybody's going to make it. They're just not. It doesn't mean, those that have soul, it never ends, we just change our physicality, but we continue on our journey.
Yeah, but I mean, I think, and I can speak for probably everybody listening to this podcast right now, is like, I would want to graduate. I would want to, evolve, not devolve. The people that I see still wearing masks, I would not want to be them. Like, where are they going? What are they just going back into the recycling bin to do this all over again? What happens? What do you get what I'm saying? So
Yeah,
some of us
I totally get it.
ascend, some of us are going to evolve, but the
I totally
process
get
of
it.
evolution, soul evolution for us. But these people, what in your mind, what happens with these people that are they're just not getting it, man? They're not even close. They're still trapped in this third dimensional realm. They're not coming out of it, and they're not even making any progress.
Well, let's take them. Let's say, and this is a pure hypothetical.
And some of them are our loved ones, right? Like family members and stuff.
Yeah.
You want to see them again. Does that mean we're going to ascend and they're not, or we're never going to see them again? Like, what happens?
That I can't answer. This I don't know. I don't know that we're never going to see them again because everything's all source.
So do you think?
So,
What do you think?
let me just address this one thing, Laura. But here's a hypothetical: the Earth ascends, it moves into fourth. Percentage of the population goes with it, and the rest, in order for them to survive in their physicality and continue on their spiritual awakening, in order to survive, they're put on starships. Okay. And they're taken to another place where they can continue their physical journey. Well, they're changed forever, being put on board a starship. Okay. They're now different. They're now tweaked. Okay. But they still have the journey of the inside, of searching themselves, developing their own soul, and living life from a place of heart as opposed to a place of ego. And, and that's the key here, is living from a place of heart, being of service to each other as opposed to being of service to self. And a lot of people that are in that ego space are of service to self, because they're hooked into, I have to be great. I have to do this. I need to accumulate all this wealth, when it really means nothing. You can't take any of it with you, and I'm going to go back to something that Visayas once said to me, that the love that you withhold is the pain that you carry lifetime after lifetime. That's what it's all about. That truly is what it's all about. Your journey, what you went through, you are totally of service to everyone. And it's obvious that you truly care about humanity and your loved ones. Dude, you're so on the path. I don't think you could leave the path now, even if you wanted to, because you're there. You understand on a core level what this is all about. Whether you believe in aliens or not, you're of service to others. That's everything. That's everything, because your intention is to help others. And intention is what Source always looks at.
What about, go ahead, Laura.
Oh yeah, no, I was just gonna. I didn't mean to interrupt when I was just adding to the question, and I mean, I was just gonna say that even if a person does this, I think we repeat things as long as we're dependent on an inverted system, and that dependency bond is still alive. We need to cut through that, and that is the soul journey. But if that person who's in fear still holds love, doesn't fall into the divide and conquer, is just trying to navigate the madness and is just being duped. I mean, I think that's a lot different than a person that is going into, like you said, service to self. I'm right, you're wrong. Therefore, the love breaks down and so I just wanted to add that. But what were you going to say, David?
What about psychopaths? What about sociopaths? I've had friends that I would probably put in that category, and I can't figure out, is that a genetic thing? Is that a soul thing? Why are they so service to self that they'll hurt others and find complete to them it's completely normal. It's not even they don't even feel they did anything wrong. They were owed that, like, so what about these type of people that operate in that system of not only service to self, but I'm going to take whatever I want from you, and you're not going to be able to do anything about it. It's not even it's almost like an entitlement of a narcissistic entitlement that I've never seen before. I know people like this, and I've always wondered: is this a genetic thing? Like, where does their soul go if they can't help it from right when they get out of the gate? Let's say they're born that way. I mean, can we fault them for it? I mean, where do these people go?
I don't know. I'm not God. I have no idea.
No.
I will tell you that some of them have attachments, spiritual demonic attachments.
I believe in that.
That's actually who's running the show for the most part. And they're just body.
Can I just say I've had friends around me that I could see their attachments.
There you go.
I could see them, and they're dead now.
Yes, they are.
And
Eventually the demonic will kill the host.
It's parasitic.
Yeah. Yeah.
I could, whenever they were around me, I could tell whatever was attached to them wanted to attach to me.
Yeah.
But that physical being who allowed that demonic energy in has to sort of unwind from the karmic retribution. That's why the deep state wants people to do their dirty work so they escape. That's why they trick us out of our own free will and use mind control, because we create the mess that they encourage us to create, and it sort of relieves them a bit, would you say?
Well, they're doing anything they can to absolve themselves of any karma, but you can't. But you can't.
That's
you can't game the system.
It's abuse.
You can't game the system. Source is not fooled.
Right.
But why does someone go so far into the dark that they completely deny the light when the light is everywhere around them? I simply don't have an answer for that.
So what about
able to figure it out?
So what about the karma laws that they go by, in sense of they have to show you before they do it, like so that the karma doesn't come back to them? Whether they show it in commercials or movies or whatever, they have to show you an event before they do it. So it's kind of like telegraphing before they do it. What about that? Do they actually have loopholes for the system?
No. Let's and I've heard that The Simpsons predicting things and so on and so forth. Is that really telling us what they're going to do? No, because not everybody watches The Simpsons. They don't get off the hook with that. That just gives them more justification to do what they really want to do. We get back to the psychopaths. They made a decision that they were going to remove 90% of the world's population between now and 2030, 2050. That was their decision. They told us in the 90s that that's what they were going to do. 94 at the UN, Agenda 21. That's what they told us. Well, they told each other. Okay. Did every country's government tell everybody else, hey, you've got between now and 2050 and you're done? Did they? No, they did not. No. You see, this is what's interesting. This takes us in another direction, and I'll do this just for a minute. This is where you had two different breakaway societies. You had Safari, the agency, deep state, space fleet, and then you had Solar Warden, which was run by the United States Navy. They went out, and then they were pushed back into our solar system because other benevolent races says, wait a minute, you can't do this. What makes you think that you can betray your own people and we're going to let you come out here and colonize? This is not what you do. This is not behavior we would ever tolerate. So everybody had to come back. And the only thing we know about Space Force and our space fleet and the Alliance is because Solar Warden is sharing information with Space Fleet. End of story, period. And they had to be separate. They had to be a completely separate entity with people that they knew they could trust, the best of the best of the best. And that's where we're at. And that's where the disclosure is coming from.
Yeah.
Because we need to realize that all of us, on some level, belong to a bigger family. We've never been alone.
Yep.
They only convinced us we were alone. And if anybody we saw was different, we treated them as if they were an outsider. For example, when someone comes out of the dark night of the soul, they're a different person. And the people you used to know would move away from you and say, you know, dude, you're not right. When in fact, you're 100% right. You are 100% intact. They're the ones who aren't right. But they're not going to look at themselves. They're going to push you away and say, you know what? No, there's something off with you. And the fact is, you're totally on. You're lit up like a streetlight. They're the ones who aren't. And we've all go through this shit. It's been, and if you've done this work for a long, long time, you'll see it for decades. And then one day it changes. Everybody realizes, oh my God, David was right. David did the right thing. He made the right choices, because now we see him and they're like, wow, he's happy. He's doing well. He's content. He's fulfilled. And look at how many real friends he has. And that's kind of how it works. So
it's funny you say that, because I've had a lot of people reject interviews with me because of not just being a Trump supporter, but they label me Q when I've never said I was part of Q at all. But I mean, I believe it does hold water, and I do pay attention to it. I think I entertain all things, right? I'm not a one-trick pony. I try to give everyone a platform to talk, but it's funny when someone wants to reject an interview with me, that's the first place they go. And, and it's just, instead of having an open mind and trying to come on and answer really tough questions, it's a way of giving a reason or a excuse to get out of it. I don't know. I'm just saying, it's like, all right, you want to label me that? Okay. I'm not, I never said I was that, but it's kind of a funny thing that this whole movement has been categorized and compartmentalized in a way that we're all now in these categories and subcategories. And this was the next part of the interview I wanted to talk to you about, is this new, I don't know, in fighting that I'm seeing. It seems like now everyone's cannibalizing each other, and these even in this movement, in the awakening movement, it's almost like they can't beat us, so they're infiltrating us.
Yes, can I say something on that real quick?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. I mean, I've lost all my platforms. I'm trying to rebuild, and I don't know where everybody's gone, and I'm thrown all these labels. I get the nastiest comments, and friends, even that I wrote a forward to their book, have abandoned the friendship because I interviewed somebody that they didn't like. And it's just being a sensitive soul, like I'm not thriving like I feel like I should. And, coming from this family and having this strong agreement and not going to Mars and helping and being a service to the best that I can. And didn't Eisenhower set up the White Hats and the Earth Alliance and the Solar Ward? And it sort of has blindsided me, the hatred or being lumped into something. And I feel for you too, when I see those comments. It's just mind blowing how people that should know better would do that. And I'm feeling really injured by it all, and I'm trying to rise above, but it's been pretty brutal on my end.
Well, people that are not open-minded they're not open-minded because they're afraid. If they were truly positive and sure about what reality was, they would have no problem addressing it and discussing it. But because they're not really sure, because they don't really know themselves, they will move to a place and say, well, you think this is real and you think that's real, therefore I can't talk to you. It's because they're afraid that their construct of what reality is, they're not sure about either. And that what they don't want is to have you come in and smash it with a hammer.
No.
Okay,
Truth doesn't
that's
do
what it
that.
is.
Truth doesn't
So,
do that.
and
Yeah, but people don't want to have to rebuild their belief system. It's a lot of work.
it's really hard. It's really hard to let go of what isn't your shit, and then claim what is yours. We all grew up with families, moms and dads, and belief systems that we thought were real because that's what our family believed. And at some point we come into our own in our lifetime and we realize, those belief systems don't serve me. And actually I don't see them serving humanity at all. And we make a shift. We begin to make a change. Now we may not talk to people about it, but we've changed our perspective on life and our decisions based on that small change. And we pursue a different course. And you have to. I mean, for me, I think it would be awesome for 7 or 8 extraterrestrials to come down and address the whole world. Just like, here we are, have them all be a little different, and just say, okay, you're not alone, we are real. That changes everyone's perspective. They can't avoid it. And now what they have to do is they have to go back to their belief systems that everything's evil, everything's the devil, we're the only ones, the universe evolves around the earth, all this nonsense. Now they're forced to look at their shit. That's how I would do it. But, that's why I'm probably not.
When you say something like that, I consider myself a Christian, right? I believe in Jesus Christ, but I believe there's more to the story. And every time I have an open mind for everything, and people say, "Oh, aliens are demonic, they're this or that." I'm like, no, nobody knows that. Nobody knows anything. I leave my mind open. I'm a sponge. I want to learn as much as possible. And sorry, God gave me this intelligence to do so.
Exactly.
An open mind and an open heart. That's it, man.
And I'm not trying to pigeon anybody or pigeonhole anybody, but we live in a duality. Now we have angels that were dark, obviously the fall, and then we have angels who are not. So,
Right.
That tells you right up front, we have two sides. We live in a duality. It's up to us to figure that out. And how do you do that? With soul, with your heart. It's knowing that everything is frequency and paying attention to frequency, not looking at how gorgeous they are or how handsome. None of that shit matters. What's here? What is here? That's the gauge. That's where the true value is of any soul.
Because that's all that's left when everything fades. And
There
I'm
you
watching the fate of my father right now.
That's
I
what
watched
we're
my
back
dog.
to.
Right.
Yeah.
I watched my dog get old, and in the last 3 weeks of his life, I knew it was time. It was just over. And I'm now watching it with my parents, and it's the hardest thing, the hardest reality to grasp. And everything leads you, man. You're only left with your soul. And I had a friend that told me a very interesting quote. He said, he said, at the end of the game, the king and the pawn go in the same box.
There you
And I
go.
was like,
So they're both the same.
right.
Yeah, they're both the same.
Right.
That's exactly right.
This is why I wrote the book, Awakening the Truth Frequency. It's not my truth. It's what is your truth? I mean, I feel truth doesn't need to defend itself. It doesn't mind being questioned. And when people feel attacked because they're being questioned, why are you defending it so much? It should stand on its own. We should be able to have these greater conversations that are with mutual love and respect. And that's where I always come from. So if I'm interviewing somebody that might question somebody else, that's no attack on the person because I'm not necessarily in agreement. But like you, David, I have an open mind and everybody, deserves to have a voice. But the conflict between them is between them. And picking sides is just not my thing. I want to love everybody. And I feel like having a big heart is not really working out so well for me in this lifetime.
I love when people change my perspective or my point of views. I welcome it. A lot of people cannot welcome it. They don't know how to do that. For me, I welcome that because it's just like fighting a really good fighter and taking some licks. And then the next time I fight him, I go, oh, I know where I was making those mistakes. I'm not going to do that next time. Next time I'm going to have an answer for that. And then I whoop the shit out of them the next time because I learned. Every time someone brings me a new perspective, I change my views. I tweak it out just a little bit. I get better. I get sharper. Iron sharpens iron. I love to be put in my place. I love to be I love to when I don't have if I'm speechless or I don't have an answer for something. I like that because then I have to go back and think about it and go, wow, what did that person say that was so profound that it stumped me? Because I'm not in a race with anybody but myself, and I'm just trying to get better as I move along. I don't care what anyone thinks. I don't care what anyone else does. I'm just in a race with. At the end of the day, the race is with myself.
You're a spiritual athlete, so
Yeah.
The heart and the mind only work if they're open.
exactly.
We'll
See, that's
we'll leave it at that. Go ahead. Do you want to keep going? I don't know. I don't know.
But I think that's like standing in our truth is being authentic, humble, and in integrity, and stand your ground and everything like that. But don't deny somebody else where their process is, and we can be a part of this greater conversation and unite instead of fall apart. Yeah. What are your thoughts, Alex? I mean, you've been in the field for a really long time. You've witnessed more than probably most people, being one of the first that really helped to open people's eyes. And are you, I mean, I out of respect for your time, just like David asked, do you have a little bit more time, or what are your thoughts?
1 more minute, 2 more minutes?
Mhm.
Okay. I've seen a lot of change over the years. And I've seen a lot of people come forward, sharing their life, sharing their experiences. And in the beginning, it's amazing. They're changing minds, they're changing hearts. And then what happens is they feel the draw of moving it back from, let's say, fourth dimensional truths into third dimensional business. And they turn their mission into mission, and their mission statement into dollar signs. And that's where they lose, because it no longer becomes about the mission of sharing enlightenment with people. It becomes about the dollars, the Benjamins. And I've seen this over and over and over again. And what happens is that the information that they've shared gets lost. Because they've changed their intention. Okay, when you change your own intention about who you are in your life, you will feel the frequency shift almost immediately, and you'll start moving in another direction. Now, the challenge is to know always what you want. If you always focus on what it is that you want, and you're as clear as you could possibly be about what that is, and you keep focused on that, being in the present, but focused on what it is that you want, you will absolutely create that as you continue to move forward towards it. But people get drawn back into the third density. All the things that aren't real, that become physical traps that distract you from the fact that you yourself, all of us, are on a spiritual journey, a spiritual path. We didn't come down here to get an American Express card. We didn't fall from all these higher dimensional realms to come down to Earth to get an American Express, a Visa, and a MasterCard. That isn't what this shit's about. None of that is real. Like Visayas once said, why do you have to pay to live on a planet you were born on? Fuck, that's haunted me all this time. And when I see this, it's crazy what people will do for money. It's insane. There's just so much to this, and everybody's so different. And I think one of the things that's really troubling, that makes it difficult for us, is we don't know our past. We don't know about all the ancient civilizations before us. We don't know how they fell, how they were destroyed. We don't know what their belief systems were, or their spiritual belief systems truly were. All we have is this mishmash of bits and pieces that literally, if you really break it down, don't tell us much. Jesus, an absolute incredible person. We know 3 years of his 33 years life.
Yeah.
That's it. The Gospel of Thomas has more information, more words of Jesus than the New Testament. How's that possible? You know, but it
Yeah.
is. That's what it is, you know? It's crazy. The Book of Enoch, which was in the Bible for 700 and something years, they took it out in 1611 when the printing press was invented. They removed all those books because they didn't want us to know. Read the Book of Enoch. It tells you all about the extraterrestrials, who they are, what they're like, what they're not like, and the fact that we should never worship them. And I still see that even today, you know. And it's not about them. None of what's happening here on this planet is about them. It's about us. It's about humanity. It's about taking this DNA bloodline and putting it in its place in the galaxy. And that's what this mission was about, because we are a conglomeration, a compendium of the best and the worst that the galaxy is. And that's the mission. That's always been the mission. And to take Earth supposedly home to fifth density, because she's going with or without us. And that's a fact. You know, it's amazing times, guys. It's amazing times. And there's no one size fits all. There just isn't, you know.
So it's like I leave this now with even more questions, which is what I love. So, thank you, Alex, and thank you, Laura, for joining me. And we got to do this more often, Laura.
I know.
And if we can get Alex on as many times as we can, that's great, because every time it's like it's so profound. I really leave here with a lot. So thank you. Like I said, you just opened up a whole new realm of questions for me.
Sir, it's an honor and a privilege to share this time in this space with you. You're an inspiration to a lot of people. And
Thank you.
You know, you show a lot of them the way. The warriors, the gladiators, you show them the way. So don't ever think for a minute that you're not making any headway, because you are. You absolutely are. You're reaching people none of us would ever reach. And the warriors, the gladiators, those are people we need in society.
Thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you, Nino. And you know, I can speak for Laura and myself. Our prayers are with you and your family, and you know, whatever becomes of your journey, know that, you know, we share the highs and the lows with you, because you're a good man. You're a really, really good man. And just stay the course, no matter how hard it is.
Thank you.
You know?
I really appreciate both of you. It means a lot to me. Yeah, I mean, I was not going to do a show today, and I said, no, that's not my character. I'm going to do a show today, because no matter how hard things are going in my personal life, I was taught as a youngster when I was boxing, no matter what's happening in your professional life, I mean, in your personal life, you get in the ring and you perform. And that's what I'm doing here. So, that's it.
Yeah, we're all still in the circus, aren't we?
Yeah. You know, that guy I'm fighting doesn't care what's going on in my personal life. But this is a much bigger fight. So, guys, thank you so much. Laura, where can people find you?
Cosmic
I know
Guide.
you're off all the platforms now, right? I mean, geez.
Yeah. CosmicGuide.org. I'm launching a new platform soon. And yeah, go on my website and sign up for the free newsletter just to keep up with what I'm doing. And even if I don't have a following, I know what I do, and I know that it impacts somehow. And it's okay.
CosmicGaia.org.
Yep.
And Alex, where can people find you?
AlexCollier.org.
It's just holding the love and just the intention. So thank you, guys. It's been wonderful to be with you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you
All
for
right,
the energy to ground us. Appreciate it.